I can't even tell you how long we have been told that stress causes us to get fat. One thing they don't really explain on too well, in my opinion, is really how this works in the body so that we understand what's happening or how that's happening in our own bodies on a daily basis. So what I want to do today is I want to take some time to help you understand how stress can actually make you put on body fat or gain body fat, and then what this actually looks like in a day for most people. Because then I find that you can identify what this actually is, when it's happening, and then we have the ability to stop it from happening as much. And we can burn more fat and end up being on the happier side or the plus side of hitting our goals. So while I'm explaining this to you, I'm going to make Koopa, he's standing here patiently waiting for his food today. So I'm going to be explaining this as I'm making his food. So when we get stressed out throughout the day, this is going to in turn activate our adrenals. Now, the way it activates our adrenals is through breathing and through neurology. So this could be you sitting at your desk and you get an email or you get called into a meeting with people and you now start discussing very stressful topics, dealing with people that stress you out, something of that nature. Now, once we get stressed out, our adrenals are activated, we start short, shallow breathing, and our body at that time now says we need carbohydrates as a source of fuel. Well, if we haven't eaten any carbohydrates, so we maybe don't have any actually in the blood from food that we've ingested, then our body is going to release stored carbohydrates from the liver. And it's going to release these into the bloodstream as a source of fuel. Now, this is a regular adaptation. This is something that should happen so that we have a source of energy when stressful situations arrive down the road. The problem becomes when these situations aren't acute, meaning they're happening once, twice a day, when it's a constant throughout the day. So we start getting this almost fatigue-like symptom that happens because we're always asking our adrenals to turn on, which then is releasing this insulin or releasing carbohydrates into the bloodstream, glucose into the bloodstream. And then we have to activate the pancreas, and the pancreas has to then say, let's take these carbs that are in the bloodstream and do something with them again. And after time and time and time and day and weeks and months of this happening, your pancreas gets exhausted of the work. It doesn't have a lot of downtime, amongst other things that are going on in there. And eventually, your pancreas now doesn't do near as good or a proficient job at releasing insulin to handle the carbohydrates that are in the bloodstream. Now, since we don't have the insulin to do something with the carbs, we also are most likely, like I kind of told you, you're sitting at a desk, maybe you're not doing anything that actually requires a lot of energy. So this gets released and we don't have a way of using this energy. And these carbs are now going to float around through the bloodstream. And eventually these carbs are then going to be restored as fat. And this is what gets us in trouble. So what does this look like, on a kind of on a daily basis, or how could you identify this throughout the day? So again, imagine yourself at work, at home, whatever that might be throughout the day, and then a stressful situation arrives. So that could be a meeting, that could be dealing with kids in the morning, trying to get them to school, that could be dealing with spouses, that could be a million and one different things, but now stress has arose, and your short, shallow breathing has been activated, adrenals have been activated, carbs have now been taken from the liver and shuttled into the bloodstream, but we're not doing anything about it. and they just keep moving around through the bloodstream until eventually they get stored as fat. So how can we keep this from happening? Well, one of the first things we can do is identify when we're feeling stressed out like that and bring ourselves back, right? We can start with nasal breathing, breathing long, deep breaths, 4 to 5 seconds in through your nose, and again, 4 to 5 seconds out through your mouth. Eventually elongating that outer breath, bringing down the adrenals, ultimately telling your body you're okay. It doesn't have to put carbs into the bloodstream. We don't have to get ready for anything stressful. And we can basically kind of bring that situation back down. Now, at that point, you've already put some carbs into the bloodstream, but you're not dumping them and dumping them and dumping them over and over to where your body can't handle it. The second thing would be when you feel these things arise, you can get up and walk. Take a 10-minute walk. Now, this walk is going to do a couple of things. A, going outside and walking is going to create optic flow within the eyes. As we walk, our eyes are going to bounce left to right outside. And this bouncing left to right is actually going to create, like I said, optic flow and ultimately create a more peaceful situation internally. And again, bringing down the adrenals and causing that situation to back down a little bit. The walk is also going to be a way to utilize those carbohydrates that just got released into the bloodstream. So if that walking ends up being like a twofold winning situation there, because not only are you bringing yourself back down, then you're doing something with those carbohydrates you just released into the bloodstream. So they're a lot less likely to be converted over to fat. So ultimately, we have to know how stress impacts our body. Stressful in small bouts is fine. We should feel stress in small bouts, and our body knows how to deal with that. But when we don't know how to cope with stress very well, stressful bouts become stressful days, become stressful weeks, and stressful months. And ultimately, this is going to play havoc on how we produce insulin. It's going to play havoc on how we do things with glycogen, on how we do things with fats, and ultimately really wreak havoc on your health. So, guys, again, I hope this helps out. I hope this helps you understand how stress can impact you in the long term if we don't know how to cope with stress very well.